Are you tired of losing in melee combat in Sea of Thieves? Are skeleton castles just taking way too long and feel way too inefficient? Well, let's change that all today. Because today we're talking about tips and tricks for Sea of Thieves, how to get better at the game in various ways and how to just improve your game with these tiny little things that you can do, as well as some bigger deals, starting with combat. Many people seem to think that combat in Sea of Thieves is rather simple and very straightforward, and for the most part that is true, especially when using guns. But especially with a cutlass, there are quite a few things that you can do that many people are not as aware of, and we'll dig into that. So let us look at the cutlass, probably the best weapon in the game. A lot of the information for this particular part stems from a Sea of Thieves forum post called Training with Sub-Zar Advanced Swordplay Guide, so shoutouts to him, link is in the description down below. When it comes to fighting in Sea of Thieves, you have three basic interactions. You have your melee swing, you have the charged up attack when you hold down the attack button, and you have the block. So far, so good, so simple. But outside of that, there are a few more tricks. The first one is with the charge attack. The charge attack is typically referred to as lunge, so whichever people are talking about, it's all the same thing, you know what they mean now. The charge attack normally slows you down while you're charging your weapon, basically holding it back and then going forward with that one thrust that is supposed to take you very far and potentially kill the enemy. And this particular combat move is very impactful, but you can accelerate yourself a little bit while doing it. If you hold block while charging up the charge attack, then you will not be slowed down. This is rather strange, as charging up slows you down and blocking slows you down from your normal walking speed, but for some reason, if you use both together, you won't be slowed down, allowing for more interaction. The cutlass charge or dash, by the way, can also be used to get to your ship faster. If you charge up the attack at the edge of a cliff or whatever pier you're standing on towards your ship, then you will basically float over the water close to your ship much quicker. But you can go even further and faster than the normal charge. And that is by doing a leap or jump charge. In order to do that, you do the same thing you did before. You charge up your attack with your left mouse or your normal attack trigger and block at the same time. But on top of that, you also want to have your jump button ready. Because what you want to do is, as soon as the charge starts, so you start dashing forward, you press the jump. If you press it beforehand, you're actually kind of going to cancel the attack and it's not going to work out the way you want it, and you're just going to be standing in place. So that's super awkward, avoid that. But as soon as you started charging, you want to jump up before you, for example, leave a platform or something. This will allow you to lunge even further. If you do this on the sloop, it might actually get you flying into the water of the ship if you lunge a little bit too far and don't land precisely. This will allow you to get very close to your ship, even if it's at a far distance. If you charge it up from the beach, you don't need to do anything else. You don't even have to stand on an edge of something because you can just jump, and then that's basically like standing on an edge anyways. This move may require a little bit of practice for muscle memory first before you can actually use it effectively in combat. That depends on you, but either way you can definitely practice it on your ship, or especially when getting to the ship or moving across an island. It's a very fast way of moving to another place. The only way where it doesn't work as well is uphill. Then there's combo chaining. There is a very simple combo with the cutlass in Sea of Thieves, which is simply 3 hits right after each other. If you chain these hits correctly, then your attack chain will actually be much faster than individual swings where you don't hit an enemy. Meaning, if you hit and then you don't hit the target, you just hit the air, then you will have a recovery time that takes pretty much as long as the recovery time after chaining 3 hits. So what can you do to keep out the chain? If your target is too far away and you have to close the distance, but you're already in your hit chain, you hit them once and they jump back afterwards, for example, then you can hit the ground. If you hit the ground in between, it will count as a hit on a target, and it will keep the chain going, so you could hit the target, hit the ground, and hit the target again, and you would still have the same attack chain going on without the recovery time in between. Again, this will take a little bit of practice, but once you get used to it, you can fight a lot more effectively. But there are not only aggressive tactics to increase your sword play or your combat in general, there are also some defensive techniques. The first one is blocking. Now with blocking, most people know how it works, but what many people don't know is that you actually have a leap available while blocking, or rather a sidestep. If you hold the block down and then you push your jump button while pushing a directional key in any direction, your character will do a small hop in that direction. And this can even be diagonal, so you can do, for example, W plus A on the PC, and it will make you jump towards the front and the left a little bit. Utilizing this mechanic is crucial for one particular reason. Remember what I said before about missing attacks giving you a recovery time? If you manage to backstab an enemy's attack right when he leaps at you, then that character will have his recovery time until he can swing again, which gives you the opportunity to attack in between without risking taking any damage. This is also very helpful to juke a point-blank blunderbuss or any shot weapon basically, in order to avoid damage from that and then re-engage with your cutlass afterwards, making the cutlass a much more dangerous combat tool than many people expect. Pay attention to your surroundings though. If you're on an enemy ship, you don't accidentally want to hop into the water while juking an attack. There's also the SLOOP ladder trick. On the SLOOP, there is a side ladder on the starboard or right side of the ship. This ladder can be used through the window, so when you're inside the ship, you can use this ladder to climb out of the ship onto the ladder, either go into the water from there or climb back up and attack your enemy from above when he doesn't realize where you went. This is a nice little combat maneuver to create some confusion in the heat of the moment. And talking about creating confusion, there is also another option to do that, and that is by collecting puke. If you get drunk and you hold up your bucket and you throw up eventually, then that puke will end up in the bucket. If one of your teammates pukes on you while you're holding a bucket, the same thing will happen. This puke can then be used to attack. If you ever had somebody puke on you in the game, you know that your screen turns green and you can barely see anything, and it's generally super confusing and it definitely is not a situation you want to fight in. That effect can be recreated by throwing puke at your enemy from the bucket without having to be drunk in the first place, meaning it can give you a serious combat advantage. Now we've talked a lot about PvP, but let's talk a little bit about the PvE aspect of combat. For example, sharks. While sharks aren't technically the strongest enemies you can face, they can be a bit more of a problem than others, as they will fight you in a situation where you are already weakened due to the fact that you can't sprint away in a normal fashion and just don't have all your tools available while swimming. As such, when possible, you should probably best avoid them, as they don't really give any reward either. When facing a shark, especially on your own, it's good to be aware how much health that guy has. A point-blank shot of the blunderbuss to the shark's face will not kill a shark, even though it would kill a full health player. It will take him down to very low health and you can afterwards finish him off with a cutlass, but it will not directly kill him. That kind of makes fighting with a pistol a little more advisable, as you don't have to be as concerned with the range and you don't have to let him get as close. Snakes, on the other hand, may be annoying at first, but are actually incredibly easy once you know how to deal with them. Snakes are mesmerized by using an instrument. And this goes for quite a long range. Even if a snake is far away from you and you play the instrument, the snake will start dancing. When the snake is dancing, it won't attack you, you can just walk past it if you want to get to some specific place or pick something up. Or if you intend to fight the snake and kill it, you can play the music first and kill it afterwards while it's still mesmerized, which will give you plenty of time to take it down before it can even attack back. The snake will eventually recover and stop dancing if you stop playing music for too long, but this takes quite a while to happen. Enemies that unfortunately won't be mesmerized by music are skeletons. Now a quick note ahead here. If we're talking about skeleton fort specifically, then I would advise solo players for the most part not to tackle those. I don't think that they're too hard to do on your own, that's not the problem. But rather, they take quite a while to do if you're doing it with 1 or 2 players. And when they take so long, the risk-reward kind of doesn't pay off in the same way as it does for a whole galleon. With smaller ships, you're often better off just going for simple missions and getting your rewards that way, and you'll probably cash in about the same. While the reward for a skeleton fort is great, what's not so great is it being taken out by a galleon on the way back to any kind of outpost after you soloed the whole thing, and then not getting any of the reward after all. You have to keep in mind that no matter how many people you do the skeleton fort with, the reward will always be the same, so it's definitely worth it more if you do it with 4 people over 1. If you decide to go for a skeleton fort, don't ignore the tools that you have on the island. Obviously, there are bananas there and there are also ammunition crates so you can always reload, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about the fact that there are often TNT barrels as well, and especially cannons. You can use those cannons. You can use one player to lure the enemies into a specific area, the skeletons into the pool in the middle of many of the skeleton forts, for example, and then use the cannon to shoot them all very, very effectively. This saves you a ton of time, ammunition, and bananas at the same time. Also note that bananas in the crates will eventually respawn, so if you run out at some point, they might be back a little bit later and you might be able to fight back once again. Skeletons can be weakened in various ways. What's important to note in this regard is that I wouldn't advise trying to juke too much with your cutlass and doing the dodges, because in many situations, the skeletons don't really care. The melee ones do, but those who have guns have somewhat strong aim to almost auto-aim, and they will still hit you even if you dodge their shots. If you get low on health, your best bet is usually to sprint away a little bit, then hide behind some wall or something, eat some bananas, and pick up the fight again. At the same time, shadow skeletons can kinda be outrun by jumping backwards and shooting them. Not so much with the cutlass, but simply keeping a distance and shooting them over and over. Shadow skeletons are also weak to light. That means they are automatically weaker in the daytime, and they are also weaker when you raise your lantern in front of them. You can lure them towards the torches on the islands to increase the damage they take. Gold skeletons, on the other hand, are weak to any form of water. This counts for rain or the sea, as well as the pools that are often in the middle of the skeleton forts, and water from buckets. Splashing water on them or having them stand in water will make them take significantly more damage. They do take less damage from the cutlass though. Plant skeletons are kind of the opposite of gold skeletons. Water empowers them, so in the rain or in the water they're extremely strong. They are, on the other hand, weaker to cutlasses. When it comes to plant skeletons, there are some more rumors that aren't confirmed. Apparently they might be weaker if you hit them in the back, and they might also be weakened by the darkness within the fort, for example. But this hasn't been confirmed, this is just what people feel like basically, so I wouldn't rely on it. And that brings us to the end of this part of the tips and tricks. What we haven't talked about yet are ships and all kinds of tricks that you can do while on the ship. So this will be in a future episode that shouldn't be coming out all too far away from now, hopefully this week. If you haven't yet, feel free to also check out my other Sea of Thieves related videos. On one hand, I have an info video about the upcoming features that are yet to come into Sea of Thieves, some more content for you guys. And on the other hand, I have a funny moments video, which I think many of you may enjoy if you have started playing the game yourself, or even if you haven't. And with that, thank you guys for watching. I hope this was interesting and informative. If you're new to the channel, I would much appreciate if you click the sub button and maybe the bell. It really helps me out, and you will stay tuned for upcoming Sea of Thieves content. See you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out. And as I don't have an outro at the moment, I would usually leave you with my dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, but we're playing Sea of Thieves, so we're doing a Sea of Thieves outro.